What's good, guys? Welcome to my podcast, Snack Thoughts. I say again, welcome to my podcast, Snack Thoughts. And the day's thought: the world is quietly preparing for a post-dollar system. This is not America collapsing tomorrow. This is countries hedging risk, and history shows when empires lose monetary leverage, power follows. Nobody is announcing the end of the dollar. That's not how power shifts happen. They happen quietly, and that's exactly what's going on right now and behind the scenes. The dollar's current power, it stands as the reserve currency, oil priced in dollars. It can be used and is used for sanctions, financial weaponry. This strategic method by the United States has worked for decades. The dollar's real power isn't money, it's control. The US dollar, in my opinion, it is the most famous IOU ever to be created and ever known to man. Now, what's changed? Sanctions by the United States with the US dollar became overused. Some examples you can see of that is they overplayed their hand with the dollar against Vladimir Putin in Russia when they froze one of his dollar accounts because he got into it with Ukraine. And so the United States, they thought that they would cripple Russia, and Putin's economy, and also kill the ruble. But instead, Vladimir Putin, he did a workaround, and he was able to sell his oil and goods and get other nations to pay in rupees or ruples, whatever their particular Russian currency is. Please forgive me, guys, if I got it wrong, and if there's anybody that is from, Russia that's listening to this, my apologies if I've gotten your currency wrong. But I will find out and I'll correct that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, continuing. Frozen reserves, weaponized banking system, and I just said that, with what they've done to Vladimir Putin. But there's been other cases where the United States have frozen individuals' accounts, that were held in dollars. Countries, worried and concerned. Hey, are we going to be next? Will the United States target us next? Will they sanction us? If we don't go along with what they say, or come into alignment, or do things the United States way. What countries are actually doing now? All right, and this is going on behind the scene. Bilateral trade in local currency. So many nations are seeking to get away from the U.S. dollar as the main purchasing currency, and so they're seeking other means, such as you can see with the BRICS nations. China set it off, man, and Russia swiftly, followed behind, where establishing a standard currency which is backed by gold, and so the United States, they didn't foresee this. They thought that the U.S. debt would always work, but now that these nations have found workarounds, now you're starting to see those U.S. treasuries being cashed in, and those dollars are coming back to America. And what does that mean for the United States? And unfortunately for us citizens, that means that things get more expensive, and the dollar loses its purchasing ability, its purchasing power. These countries set up regional payment systems. The workaround. If the dollar globally is supposed to be the reserve currency, then they just went regional. Step it step it down, you know what I'm saying, a notch, you know what I'm saying, but it's still effective to be able to trade, you know what I'm saying, and purchase the services and goods that they need without, relying on the US dollar or US debt. Reducing exposure, not rebellion. So, the United States, they may consider it like a rebellion because the U.S. dollar is kind of like with the United States wields it. It's like a king having a monarch having an iron scepter, and they wielded its power. You know what I'm saying? But eventually, even kings and monarchs, they can go too far and they can overplay their hand, and then it comes time for them to be dethroned. And that basically, in a nutshell, is what's happening. The dollar is being dethroned. Make no mistake about it, guys. Now, then they haven't abandoned the dollar yet. What they're doing, they're insuring against it. So they got them some insurance. BRICS reality check. No magic currency tomorrow. Fragmented interest. But momentum does matter. BRICS doesn't need to win. The dollar just needs alternatives. And from those other nations' perspective, I can understand that and can see their point. I would not want to be subjected or fully reliant on the dollar as its reserve currency, because then the United States has a lot more control over you. They kind of get to dictate what your leaders can say and do. So you have to have a backup, you know what I'm saying? And so you got to have you an insurance plan, because you fall out with the United States and you relying on their IOU, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. You got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and you have to have other means and methods of payment. And obviously for the United States, they're not affected in the same way because the dollar is the global reserve currency. Which, I mean, it was genius and it worked for a while, but, the United States, hey, they overplayed their hand. They wielded it, the power of it like an iron scepter and with cruelty, as a cruel taskmaster. And then also they printed, too much of it. So when you flood the market with too much of something, it becomes devalued. You know what I'm saying? And all it is just it's just debt anyway. It's a debt obligation, a promissory note. You know what I'm saying? That's an IOU. You know what I'm saying? That is what it is. And it's not backed by gold anymore. It is basically backed by the United States. You know what I'm saying? Their word. And I'm not saying that that the U.S. cannot, back up, the dollar, but in all reality, it is no longer backed by the gold standard. It's not backed by gold. All of it is, it's just a debt. A piece of paper. And it only has value so long as nations and Americans believe in it. When nations and the United States citizens stop believing in the U.S. dollar and they don't want to use it, they're going to move to something else. And when the U.S. citizens and other nations decide to move to a form of currency, that means the dollar goes flat. Boom. It loses its power. It no longer has any leverage. I mean, and what this means for Americans, higher borrowing cost, less sanction leverage, more competition, not collapse. Slower decline beats sudden shock. And I'm telling you, a slower decline, oh man, that's like a slower death. That's like a beaten fighter that it would be better for the opponent to knock them out quick, to put them out their misery. Whereas if the opponent keeps them, upright in the ring long enough just to beat on them and punish them over time. That the beaten fighter winds up taking more severe damage. Whereas if they had gotten just flat knocked out quick, the fight is over and they can go on, to get medical attention and recover. But if they are in that ring and the opponent refuses to knock them out, keeping them up, just enough so that they could just beat on them over time. Huh? That's some of what in fighters causes Parkinson's disease. And it's kind of what's happening to the U.S. dollar. It's taking a beating. It's taking a beating. Now, military and power, okay? Obviously money funds force protection. The United States has the most powerful military in the world, and it is extremely well funded. They spend, a trillion, at least a trillion and change on the United States military, at least. But the DOD, sees to it that the military is funded, because how you going to protect the dollar or back it up or protect your country if you don't have protection and security? So you got to have some military might backing you, and backing your resources, and also to preserve it and protect your resources, your currency, and your citizens and your way of life. The military, obviously, you need money for logistics. You got to pay to rent the land for those bases overseas, and even in the States. Even if the U.S. military owns the land, nevertheless, they still have to buy it. Alliances, alliances ain't free. NATO, anybody? United States foots pretty much close to 100% of the bill for NATO. They pay most of it, and what the United States empire is going through, it is in decline, and it is facing its demise. History lesson: Rome and Britain. There's nothing new. What's happened before is coming back around again, and this time it's just the United States' turn. The U.S. empire, obviously, it's not going to last as long as Rome and Britain. But hey, it had its run. It had its run, and like the song by Kenny Rogers, you gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. Sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. And that right there is the U.S., You stay at the table too long. The house always wins. And even though the United States is powerful as it is still a piece on the chessboard. And everybody, every nation is affected, in this game, and so to speak. It is a global system, and it is a global game, and everybody are pieces on the chessboard. The world powers may obviously be the more dominant pieces, but nevertheless, there's still pieces on the chessboard, and any piece can be taken. Any piece can be challenged. Any piece can be taken down. And the United States is just another piece on this global chessboard. And just like other nations need us, the United States, they need the world also. There's no this is not an island, It's not a one-man show. And the global economy, everything, it is now linked. We all, are tied in, together. So, like it or not, the United States is going to have to give something. It can't be, all take and no give. Because best believe nations, they will find, other alternatives. And the same thing, U.S. citizens. If the United States, keeps going at the rate it's going, citizens and people, they will find another alternative. And when that happens, that means that your country or your government is about to fall flat on its face. When money weakens, military reach shrinks. It costs money to run, especially a military the size of the United States and how they have it positioned globally. All of that costs money. It costs money, But as I close, guys, it's something to think about. Empires don't fall overnight. They adjust or they fade. The world is adjusting. The question is, are we? And I will leave it at that, guys. And the name of this podcast is Snacks Thoughts. SNAKZTHOUGHTS. Snacks Thoughts. And you can find this podcast on Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Radio PBM, SoundCloud, and a host of other social media outlets. So please subscribe and join me here on Snacks Thoughts. Leave a comment. Would love to hear what you think about the U.S. dollar. Share your thoughts, guys. And also, I have YouTube channel, Eric Broadus YouTube, EricBroadus. So go to Eric Broadus YouTube, and subscribe to my channel. Smash that bell to become a subscriber. Turn on all notifications. And also hit the like or unlike button to like the videos and the content. Leave a comment. Love to dialogue with you either way. And make sure to hit the hype button on YouTube for the videos. Hit that hype button, guys. Hype me up. Get me out there. Come on. And also have a Snacks 123 on Rumble. SNAKZ 123 on Rumble, guys. So join and subscribe to me on Rumble as well. Hit the like, unlike button. To like or unlike the videos, leave a comment. Love to dialogue with you. Everyone is entitled to their perspective and opinion and has a right to be heard. And lastly, I have the 5 best weight loss products. And they're for health and nutrition. You're seeking to cut fat, lose weight, to help you towards, getting in shape. Click on the link. It will be in the description. Next to God, the next best thing that you have is your health, guys. And your health is your wealth. So take care of it. You get one body and you get one life to live, guys. And your health has an immediate impact on your quality of life. If your health is not good, there's nothing you can do, and you definitely will not enjoy life the way you should. But that's all I have on this one, guys. Share them all with families, friends, frenemies, enemies, bats, cats, dogs, rats, whatever. Share it, push it out. All right, guys? Peace out. Catch you on the next one later.